विश्वं दर्पण दृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं अंतर्गतं वज्रन्मणिमायया बहिरिवोत्थिता यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये मा वयं श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः दक्षिणामूर्तये तरुणाब्जनेत्रम् एकाम्बरं वरविभूषिताङ्गम् मूर्तिं मनोरथ भुवां भज जानकीशम्। All right, Ruby, I think you need to go on mute. There's some echo coming in the room. Am I the only one hearing background noise, or?
Yes, there is an echo.
Ruby, if you hear us, can you go on mute, please? Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll share my screen now. Just give me a minute. Thanks, Ruby. Yeah, I think there was some background noise coming. So, okay. So we had covered until Doha Chaupai block number 43 last time. And we had said that that's the end of the first block of the Rāmacaritamānasa, which is the Amuk, or the preface or introduction. And with that, we come to the end of one logical block and move on to the next one. Now, the next block from 45 onwards, or 44 is more of an introduction of the multiple conversations. Now we begin with Bharadwaj Yajnavalkya. Moves on onto the story of Shiva, Sati, and then Sati's rebirth as Parvati, and then the marriage of Shivji and Parvati ji. So that's going to be the spotlight over the next few weeks. So we are slowly moving from the preface of the Manas onto the story of Shivji and Parvati ji through the birth and burning of Sati, and then her being reborn as Parvati ji. So we'll come to that entire story and the lovely passage. It's around Doha 90 of the marriage of Shivji and Parvati ji. There are many, many beautiful things that are going to happen now. I mean, with the Manas, it's very difficult to say that one passage is more beautiful than the other. But scholars generally say that up to Doha 43 is the groundwork. So why do we do the Manas? What is the purpose of it? What is the context of it? So, you know, the rubbing of the canvas for the painting is now done. Now we have to start with our broad and fine brush strokes, which we begin from Doha number 44. I'll read the Doha Chaupai block, and then we'll pause for 5 minutes, do a reflection of what all have we done till 43, do a projection of what are we going to do in the coming weeks, and then we'll get into the unfolding, so that we also have a quick revision, or what we call a Sihavalokan. Okay, so we are on Doha Chaupai block number 44. भरद्वाज मुनि बसहि प्रयागा तिन्हि राम पद अति अनुरागा तापस समदम दया निधाना परमार्थ पथ परम सुजाना माघम करगत रवि जब होई तीरथ पति आव सब कोई देव धनुज किन्नर नर श्रेणी सादर मज्जहि सकल त्रिवेणी पूजहि माधव पद जल जाता परसि अखय बटु हरसहि गाता भरद्वाज आश्रम अति पावन परम रम्य मुनिबर मन भावन तहा होई मुनि ऋषय समाजा जाहि जे मज्जन तीरथ राजा, मज्जहि प्रात समेत पुछाहा, कहहि परस्पर हरिगुण गाहा, ब्रह्म निरूपन धर्म विधि, पर नहीं तत्व विभाग, कहहि भगति भगवंत कै, संजुत ज्ञान विराग. Okay. So before we get into the unfolding of this block, let us see what all territory we've covered thus far and where exactly is our journey headed to from now on. Okay. Okay, so the Balkand now that we are reading is divided into 6 main blocks. Maybe the print is a bit small, but you can see the pointer. The first part is the Amuk or introduction. The second part of the Balkand that we are reading is the Shiv Charit. The third part is the Samvad or the dialogue of Shivji and Parvati ji. The fourth part is the reasons for incarnation. So Avatar ke Karan. The fifth part is the birth of Ram and his childhood. And the sixth part, at the risk of saying so, one of the most beautiful poetic passages ever, at least that I have read, is the youth and marriage of Ram and Sita. So those are the 6 blocks roughly. As you can see, the Balkand occupies space up to Dohā 361, of which roughly 1/3 is the marriage of Ram and Sita. And the Balkand itself is about 1/3 of the entire Rāmacaritamānasa. So if we get a grip on the Balkand, we have a fair understanding of the whole of the Manas, because the Balkand keeps on projecting and reflecting back into the story. As we have seen thus far, all the characters of the Ramayana, most of them, have already been introduced, both as their names as also the characters they define. So the entire plot of the story is already given to us. There is no surprise left. The surprise is how that narrative is being spun around to tell us other stories of ethics. So the tradition says that the Ramayana is a framing of a story on which the entire teaching of the Upanishads can ride on. And that's exactly how Goswamiji plays it. I purposely did not do this bird's eye view at the beginning, because then it becomes very theoretical. Okay, so what does Amuk mean? What does Shiv Charit mean, etc. Now that we have a flavor of how the Manas sounds, feels, and recites like, I think this is a good time to do this topographical overview of the Manas. So Amuk section is now done, which is the introduction. What is the purpose of writing the Manas? Why am I doing it? What were my faculties or lack of them? Everything. So all that we have seen up to Dohā Chaupai block 43. 44 to 104 is, as I said, the Shiv Charit. And after the Shiv Charit, which is after the marriage of Shivji and Parvati ji, then husband and wife have a beautiful dialogue on many things. And that is Doha 105 to 120. After which come the reasons of incarnation. And then finally the Ramayana Katha begins. Now just let's reflect back and think, what exactly have we covered until Dohā Chaupai block 43? So the first 5 shlokas were, of course, in Sanskrit, which were the Vandanas, the invocations. Then we began with the Sortha section, which was again a stuti of various deities, primarily Ganesh, Saraswati, Vishnu, Shiv, and also the Guru. Then we began with the Doha proper, which again was the Guru Prashansa. Then we had the Vandana of the saints and the learned people. Then we interestingly had the Vandana or bowing down to the bad people, the Asajjanas. The reason being that, goodness is visible or understood only when it contrasts with something that is bad. If everything is good, what is, if everything is an emergency, there is no emergency. I mean, emergency stands out only when there are routine tasks to do. Similarly, something that is good stands out on the background of the asajjanas. So we did a vandana to them. Then we had the whole self-doubt of Goswamiji, in which he's saying, I am so little and the task at my hand is so big. How am I even supposed to really do this? So this whole passage of self-doubt, self-reflection is what we did then. And then he comes out of that self-doubt by opening out on his limitations. So in our tradition, we say that the biggest sin reliever, first of all, there's no concept of absolute sin, but the biggest relative sin reliever is when you come out and talk openly of your sins or of your wrongdoings, which is what Goswamiji does. And then he prays again to his Aradhya, Prabhu Shri Ram, saying, now that I have opened out, I am projita kaitav, I have no hypocrisy, give me the strength and the wherewithal to talk and write about the Manas. Then he does the Vandana of Valmiki ji and of all the poets. Then we have a beautiful passage of the Saraswati, Ganga, and the Yamuna, the confluence of them, and how they represent Jnana, Vairagya, and Bhakti. After that, we had a beautiful passage of the Mahima of Ram, the Rakar and the Makar, the lettering, what is the strength of the Ram Nam, why the Ram Nam is superior to Ram himself, etc. Then we had a passage on the whole faith that Goswamiji possesses of Ram and the beautiful bodily description of Ram. You know, everything is like a lotus. So you have a physical image, and then lotus feet, lotus hands, lotus face, lotus eyes. Everything turns into a sublime painting of a bundle of lotuses swaying to and fro. That's the sublimation of the Sagun form of Ram. Then we had the whole passage of how the Ram story began, when Shivji had a samvad with Parvati ji. Then we had the praise of the Katha. So he did a praise of the Nam, he did a praise of the form, then he's doing the praise of the Leela or the Katha. And then finally he gives an imprint that I wrote this in Ayodhya on the Ram Navami day in the year XYZ. So he gives the imprint of the text. And then finally we have the entire mapping of space and time on the Manas topography. So the Manas lake, rivers originating from there and meeting the sea being a storehouse of the Puranas, the clouds being the saints showering the bhakti of Ram, and then that going back to the ocean, and we for the first time understanding what it means to be. So that's the whole framing of the Amukh or the preface that Goswamiji does. And from then on, we move into the next part, which is the Shiva Charit. Now, the Shiv Charit itself is split into two main parts. The Sati Charit, which we will start shortly from Doha Chaupai block 48. Then the Daksha Yajna and the self-immolation of Sati. And then we finally have the marriage of Shivji and Parvati ji, which is block 3. Sorry, it's out from the screen here. So that's a bird's eye view. You know, we are at 35,000 feet. We are looking at the Balkand, and this is how it's going to pan out like. So with that Sihavalokan, we'll go back to our text and start unfolding Doha Chaupai block number 44. Any questions on this so far? Yeah, Sajali.
Just quickly, so where did you get this summary? Is it in our book?
No, this is not in our book. There's a French scholar called Vaudeville, and she has written a PhD thesis in 1955 or 56, and that PhD was published in French in France, and it was translated into Hindi by the Auroville in Pondicherry. And this is an extract from that, but of course her work is based on scholarship done earlier. But then I just took a screenshot from her work because it's available centrally.
So how can one get access to just this? Because it's so nicely clean laid out.
It's there on the recording. So
yeah, so screenshot ka screenshot.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or I can also send it in the group if you want it.
If that's possible.
Yeah, I'll most happily send it in the group.
Thank you.
All right. So this is the book, Vaudeville Manas Sources. It's translated into Hindi because I don't have very good access to French linguistically. But the Auroville has done a very good job of translating her entire PhD thesis into Hindi. I think it was published originally in Paris. So that's the source. Okay. Anything else? All right. Okay. So Doha Chaupai block number 44. Bharadvaja Muni Basahi Prayaga Tinhahi Ramapada Ati Anuraga. So he now begins with, we've already been introduced to Bharadvaj and Yajnavalkya. He now introduces us again saying there was a great Rishi called Bharadvaj, and or there was a great Muni called Bharadvaj, and he resided in the confluence city of Prayag. So Prayag means it literally means a confluence. So we've got Dev Prayag, Rudra Prayag, Vishnu Prayag, and then ultimately the grand of all confluences, Prayagraj, Allahabad. So Bharadvaja Muni Basahi Prayaga, Tinhahi Ramapada Atina Anuraga. So he was not only a great scholar and a wise man, but he had love in the feet of Ram. So he was a resident Prayagvasi. He had stayed put there. So we have two types of mendicants. One is someone who does not stay in a place for more than 3 days. He's always roaming. So a sadhu is not supposed to stay more than 3 days in one place. So they stay for 3 nights and then move on. These are the roaming mendicants. So they just move on from place A, B, C, and traverse the whole territory of India on foot. The second is those who have taken kshetra sannyas. So they never leave a territory at all. So for example, there was Nagoji Bhatt. He was a great grammarian in Varanasi. He lived a very ripe age and he developed a hunchback, as they say. And he still wanted to write. So he created a hole in his wall where his hunch or hump could rest so that the pain was relieved. And he went on writing until his death. And he has written great treatises like Shabdendu Shekhar, Laghu Shabdendu Shekhar. He's written a commentary on the Ramayana, which is why I bring Nagesh into this conversation. So Nagesh Bhatt has written a commentary on the Valmiki Ramayana. And he was one of the finest grammarians that the Indian Navavyakarana tradition produced in the pre-modern or late Mughal era. And he stayed in Varanasi and he had taken Kshetra Sannyas. So the king of Jaipur invited him for a yagya that he was doing. And he said, no, I mean, my vow is not to go beyond the boundaries of Varuna and Assi, which is why, Varanasi gets its name from the two rivers, Varuna and Assi. So I will only roam in the territory that is there between Varuna and Assi. So Kshetra Sannyas is one, and Bharadvaj was the resident Rishi in Prayagraj. He stayed put there. Tapasa Samadama Daya Nidhana. He was a storehouse of compassion, and he had done great austerities so that he had Shama, control of the mind, and Dama, control of the Indriyas. So we say that our Indriyas are suppressed. We don't particularly do anything with our hands, legs, or organs of action, but our mind is going all over the place. And sometimes our mind is quiet, but just our Indriyas go here and there, and the mind starts getting wavy. Now, Bharadvaj was a rishi who had got in control both faculties of the organs of action and Gyan of knowledge, and also his mind. So he had an equipoise between the mind and the organs of action and knowledge, which is Sama and Dhamma, resulting in unasked for and non-transactional compassion, a storehouse of compassion. Paramaratha Patha Padamasujana. Paramasujana. And because of these qualities, he was enabled, these qualities, this sadhana, act as an enabler for him to plod, to move on the path of Paramartha. So our words are also very beautifully crafted. Artha is monetary exchange. Purushartha is dharma artha. So the monetary exchange is just 1/4 of that. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha, all four are purusharthas. And the paramartha, the most important of all arthas, is the path of knowledge. So paramartha patha paramasujana. And because of his sadhana, he was well established to move on the path of Paramartha. Magham Karagata Rabi Jabahoi. Now, this is again very interesting. We a couple of sessions back has said मानस पढ़ा नहीं जाता, मानस लगाया जाता है. तो ये पंक्ति को हम कैसे लगाएं? Magh is a lunar month. Chaitra, Vaishak, Jaishtha, Ashad, Shravan, Bhadrapad, Ashwin, Kartik, Margashirsh, Paush, Magh, Phalgun. Now, all our months are moon months. They go according to the lunar calendar, based on this moon rise, moon set, waxing and waning moon, Purnima and Amavasya. So, Magh mein Rabi. How did a moon month suddenly have an association with the sun? So, in the month of Magh, which is a moon month, when the sun crosses the Makara Rashi, Tirathapati Avasabakoi. At that time, everyone starts arriving into Prayagraj. Tirthon ka pati, the king of all Tirthas, which is Prayagraj. So what is this? So we have something called the Magh Mela. So many a times we think that people take a dip at the confluence only during Kumbh Mela. Actually, this is an annual event. Every year in the month of Magh, which can happen anywhere between late December to early February, because it's not a sun month, it's a moon month. All the saints, important saints, sadhus, Dashnami Akhadas, Mahants, they gather and start converging towards Prayagraj. And then for a whole month, they take a dip. And then there are all these sessions going on there. I mean, it's a jaunt. It's not like everyone is doing sadhana. I mean, there's a lot of fun and frolic going on. So there are all kinds of people who come there. Hause, gause, nause, as we say. Someone who's curious, someone who's there for fun, someone who's seeking knowledge, someone who's desolate and just wants a break. Everyone in that month starts moving towards Prayagraj. Now the question is, how can the moon month of Magh have any association with the sun crossing the Makar Rashi? See, you might know that Makar Sankranti always coincides typically with 14th of January or 15th of January, because the Makar Rashi is and the crossing of the sun is a sun phenomenon, and the Gregorian calendar is also a sun phenomenon. So you can say that a sun-related phenomenon we can map acutely on the Gregorian calendar, but a sun-related phenomenon we can't map very accurately on a moon calendar. So what Goswami ji is saying over here is, even though these calendars are moving parallel to each other, typically the crossing of the sun in the Makar Rashi happens more or less around the moon month of Magh, which is true. But sometimes the Magh Purnima is done and the Sankranti or the crossing of the sun into the Makar Rashi happens after the Magh Mela. Just keep this context in mind. That will be clear when we move into the next unfolding. But what I wanted to highlight is that this is a solar phenomenon and this is a lunar phenomenon. And the two come together over here saying around the month of Magh, the sun crosses the Makar Rashi, and that is the holy time when everyone converges onto Prayagraj. Tirathapati Avasabakoi, Deva, who all come, the gods, the demons or the Rakshasas, the Kinnaras, and then the Naras. So we always tend to have a very anthropocentric view of the world, you know. I am the center of the world and everyone is revolving around me. That is punctured saying, folks, you are just 1/4 of the whole crowd. I mean, just imagine the crowds that gather around the Kumbh Mela. I think at the last Kumbh Mela, probably there were record crowds. All kinds of figures are given, you know, from I don't know how many crores. But even that is 1/4 of the whole crowd, because the Kinnaras, Danujas, and the Devas are not visible to the mortal eye. So these stories are there to kind of sublime us and say, look, you are just a participant as a human in the grand movement of things. Don't make everything anthropocentric. So we are just 1/4 of everyone who converges at Prayagraj during this crossing over of the sun into the Makar Rashi that happens around the moon month of Magh. What do? Sadara Majjahi. They take a dip with great respect, Sakala Tribeni, on the holy Sangam of the three rivers, Saraswati, Jamuna, and Ganga. Pujahi Madhava Pada Jalajata. So before I go here, just another beautiful story that I was reminded of. So itne sare log Prayagraj mein jamenge baithenge kahan? Where is the physical space of it? So there is a beautiful story of Vrindavan. They say that there are an infinite number of cows in Vrindavan. And then someone asks the teacher, how is that even physically possible? So he says Vrindavan is like a lotus. When the cows increase, the petals open up. When they decrease, they close down. Similarly, when Krishna and Radha want to meet, the petals close in. And when they have a fight and a lover's tiff, they open, the lotus petal of Vrindavan opens up, and then they are separated. So the whole elasticity of space is brought down to us through these beautiful stories of Vrindavan being like a lotus that expands and contracts, that blooms, blossoms, and closes in. Similarly, Prayagraj, the sublime tirtha, not the physical tirtha, is a tirtha in our mind's heart with infinite space, because this Hrid Akash, the emptiness of the heart, is but a mere reflection of the infinite emptiness of the sky, the Chidakash. Anyhow, so Devadanuja Kinnara Narashreni, Sadara Majjahi Sakala Tribeni, Pujahi Madhava Pada Jalajat. And then after taking a holy dip at the Sangam, they then worship the Madhav. Madhav is of course a form of Vishnu. And Prayagraj has or had a tradition of, like we have the 12 Jyotirlingas across India, there are 12 Madhava temples in Prayagraj called the Dvadasha Madhavas. But then because of the vagaries of history, these temples were, and the whole parikrama of the Dvadash Madhavas was lost, and it was slowly revived once, I think, in the 60s by Swami Niranjan Dev Tirth and Swami Karpatri, if I remember right. And then there was an attempt to start this again in the last Kumbh Mela that happened. But nevertheless, forget the Dvadash Madhavas. The most important Madhava is the Veni Madhav. Veni is the braid. Which braid? Of course, the braid of the Sangam. And Veni Madhav is the Madhav that you worship after you've taken this holy dip. So Pujahi Madhava Pada Jalajata. Jalajata is the lotus feet. Parasi Akhaya Batu Harasahi Gatha. And then wo Akshay Vat, the tree, the immortal banyan tree, is what they touch. Sparshi. Parasi sparsh karte hain. तो संगम में नहाते हैं, माधव जी के दर्शन करते हैं, और उसके बाद अक्षय वट को स्पर्श करते हैं. परसहि अक्षय बटु हरसहि गाता. And then their hair stand on end, and there is a great spiritual happiness and joy that comes through these three kriyas of dip, worship, and touch. Bharadwaja ashrama ati pavana paramaramya munibara vana bhavana. And then around this Sangam lies the staying place or abode of Bharadwaj Rishi, and his ashram is very auspicious, ati pavana, paramaramya muni bara mana bhavana. And the great munis who come then for this 1 month, they automatically get attracted towards this ashram like bees to a flower, because it's extremely beautiful. And the beauty is not of wealth, but the beauty is of simplicity. It takes intense complexity to create something that is simple and beautiful. And if you have looked at an ashram, if you go to Gandhiji's ashram in Wardha, it is so beautiful. It's mud ground, some wooden poles, and a thatched roof. But it's somehow excessively beautiful. Similarly, this is not the the chandeliers and the carpets and the furniture that is making it beautiful. It is the sheer depth of simplicity of the ashram that is making it mana bhavan, and enchantress of the mind, his abode, and which is why all the sadhus get attracted towards it and settle in over there. So Bharadwaja ashrama ati pavana paramaramya munibara mana bhavana taha hoi muni rishaya samaja jahi je majjana tiratha raja. So whenever all these saints and sadhus have taken their holy dip, they start concentrating towards the ashram of Bharadwaja to have their satsang, bhajan, sandhya, charcha. Majjahi prata sameta uchaha kahahi paraspara hari gunagaha. And then what is their pastime? What is their kalakshep? In the morning they take a dip, and the day is spent in the singing the stories of the Lord. So hari gun gaan mein unka din परस्पर कहने में चला जाता है. ब्रह्म निरूपण धर्म विधि बरन ही तत्व विभाग कहि भगति भगवंत के संजुत ज्ञान विराग. So what do? They talk of ब्रह्म निरूपण. ये ब्रह्म अभिन्न निमित्तोपादान कारण है, वस्तु काल देश के अत्यंताभाव से उपलक्षित वो जो परम कारण है वो ब्रह्म है. So all the grand talks of knowledge are going on, which is the ब्रह्म निरूपण. Dharma Vidhi. To be able to understand these things, you need to have a certain state of mind. To cultivate that state of mind, we need to have certain do's and don'ts. That is the karma. So there is Gyan, Brahma Nirupan. The sadhana to enable us to have that equipoise of mind is the do's and don'ts, which is the Dharma Vidhi. And Tattva Vibhag is again the scholasticism. So what are the various schools of thought, etc. So there's knowledge, there's works, or there's karma. And then there's bhakti infused with vairagya and gyan. So kahahi bhagati bhagavant ke sanjuta ज्ञान विराग. Now अब इसको कैसे लगाएं कि वो जो कथाएं वहां पे चल रही है वो भक्ति की तो कथा है. They are stories of bhakti, but those stories are infused with knowledge and dispassion or vairagya. Is this the meaning, or is it saying वो भगवंत जो ज्ञान और वैराग्य से संयुक्त है उनकी कथाएं कही जा रही है, which is to say the story of Ram. So कथा कही जा रही है कृष्ण की, लेकिन कृष्ण कथा में ज्ञान और विराग की भी कहानी हो रही है, is one way of looking at it. या किसी भी की कथा हो, कथा में जाते जाते ज्ञान और वैराग्य की बातें भी हो रही है, और वो भगवंत जो ज्ञान और वैराग्य से संयुक्त है उनकी कथा हो रही है, माने श्री राम की कथा हो रही है. इसको कैसे भी लगा सकते हैं. I mean, there are many ways of unfolding this, but these are the two ways. So kahahi bhagati bhagavant ke sanjuta jnana virag. So the stories of Ram are infused with knowledge and vairagya. The stories of Krishna are infused with love. And Ram and Krishna are one and the same. So last time we saw context and text. We saw how the whole context of the month of Sharada was built. And from then we took a leap of faith into the Bhagavad Puran of Ras Panchadhyay. So Ram and Krishna stories, they again are a braided duo that move hand in hand. So such stories of divinity, great leelas are being discussed and told over there. Bharadwaj is sitting in his beautiful, simple ashram. All rishis, munis are converging at it after taking a holy dip. And then what happens? Now we move back. We said that the lunar month Magh will mostly coincide with the solar phenomenon of the sun crossing the Makar Rashi. But what if that crossing is to happen slightly later and the Magh Purnima is done? Then what happens? We then move on to the next Doha Chaupai block. But before we move on over there, any questions on this Doha Chaupai block 44? If not, we'll move on. This is more of a continuation of the earlier one. एहि प्रकार भरी माघ नहाहि पुनि सब निज निज आश्रम जाहि प्रति संबत अति होई आनंदा मकर मज्जि गवनहि मुनि वृंदा एक बार भरी मकर नहाए सब मुनीस आश्रम न सिधाए जाग बलिक मुनि परम विवेकी भरद्वाज राखे पदटे की सादर चरण सरोज पखारे अति पुनीत आसन बैठारे करि पूजा मुनि सुज सुब खानी बोले अति पुनीत मृदुबानी नाथ एक संशय बड़ मोरे करगत वेद तत्व सब तोरे कहत सो मोहि लागत भय लाजा कहत सो मोहि लागत भय लाजा जौन कहूँ बड़ होई काजा संत कहहि असी नीति प्रभु श्रुति पुराण मुनि गाव होई न विमल विवेक उर गुरसन किए दुराव. ओके, यही प्रकार भरी माघ नहाहि. Hari Magh, पूरे माघ महीने में, in the whole of the month of Magh, all such people, curious, wanting to know, wanting to have some frolic, wanting just to experience it, those suffering FOMO, अरे वहां पे जाना है, कुछ तो होता है. So everyone is gathering over there. And once that crowd has receded, what is that end point? The closure of the month of Magh, which is the lunar month. So एक बार भरी माघ नहाहि पुनि सब निज निज आश्रम जाहि. Everyone then started returning. So this whole crowd that had converged in Prayagraj, at the closure of the month of Magh, they started receding and little crowds remained because ek baar, at this one particular time, The Makar crossing was to happen after, as happens many a times, because as I keep saying, these are two different phenomena. They just happen to coincide at that time. Pratisambata ati hoi ananda makara majji gavanahi munibranta. Then, just like every year, with great joy on that auspicious moment when the sun crossed over into the Makar, even the groupings of great munis took their dip and then they went away. So the grand phenomenon is now over. The Magh month is over. The Makar Snan is also over. But still, so all the, the flood of crowds has receded. And those who are still in search for something, tormented, wanting, searching, happy, sadhakas, only that filtered, selected crowd has now remained back. Ek baar bhari makar nahaye sab munisa ashrama nasidhaye. So then, after the Makar Snan was over, after both the Purnima was over and the crowds had resided, the remaining munis converged on the ashrama of Bharadvaj. Chagabalika Muni Parama Viveki, and then a great Muni called Yajnavalkya. He's an author of one of the shakhas of Yajurveda. He's an author of one of the Upanishads. So a very, very great rishi. I mean, take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt, because the Vedas are considered apaurushaya. We just assign names of editing. So they saw some truths which are not really creations of a human mind, but eternal truths, and they edited and put it together. That is how authorship is to be understood. So Jagabalika Muni Parama Viveki, Bharadvaja Rakhe Padateki. And then Bharadvaj did not want to lose this golden opportunity, because he had seen that Yajnavalkya has also remained back. And he pressed his feet and pleaded him to stay back. So he said, Yajnavalkya ji, please, aap kripa karke piche rahiye. Sadara charana saroja pakhare. With great respect, he washed his lotus feet. Ati punita asana baithare. And with great respect, put him on a high seat. Kari puja muni sujasu bakhani. He then did some offerings to him, and in front of the gathered crowd, Bharadvaj talked of the greatness of Yajnavalkya. Bole ati punita murdubani. And very softly, Bharadvaj goes on to ask Yajnavalkya, Nath eka sausau badamore. I am a rishi myself, but I have a little doubt in my mind. So who else can I ask this to but you, O Yajnavalkya? Karagata veda tattva sabutore. Ved ka jo tattva hai, the essence, the nichod of the Vedas, is like an amla on your hand. You can look at it from all directions. It as clear as daylight to you. It is like an amla, a gooseberry in your hand. सब वेदों का जो तत्व है वो आपके हाथ में एक आमले की तरह खेलता है. करगत, in your hands, वेद तत्व सबुतोरे. कह सो मोहि लगत भय लाजा, जो न कहूं बड़ होई अकाजा. I have a certain doubt, but I have both fear and a certain shame. Jo na kahun bada hoi akaja. But if I don't express it, I don't think that's a good sign. Now, why does he have fear and shame? He has shame because he himself is a great rishi. Who is Bharadvaja's guru? It's none other than Valmiki. So Bharadvaja is a student of Valmiki. So he's a bit shy, saying, should I express my doubt to Yajnavalkya? But he's also scared that if my duty as a rishi is to pursue knowledge, and if I am not pursuing that when the opportunity comes, I am committing a crime. So I'm scared. And hence, even though I have the shame of expressing, I have the fear of not expressing. And hence, please excuse me if I'm asking something wrong. With that preface, he now asks, Santa kahahi asa niti prabhu shruti purana munigav, hoina bimala bibeka ura gurasana kiye durao. He says that great saints have told that this is the right thing to do, as also the Shrutis, the Vedas and the Puranas, as also the Munis have sung this. Hoina bimala bibeka ura gurasana kiye durao. If you have a certain secret, a veil of secrecy that divides you from your guru, then you will never get clarity of thought, and your mind will never be washed of all its noise. So I have this doubt. I don't want to have a veil between you and me that hides my lack of knowledge, makes you think that I know it all. because I don't. So I'm now removing this veil. I'm prostrating before you and coming up with my question. So this removing of the veil makes me jump again onto the Bhagavad Puran. When Bhagavan Krishna steals the clothes of the gopis, it is a reference to this. There has to be no veil separating you from divinity. You have to be as you are in front of divinity. So that's the whole context of the Gopi Vastraharan Leela. So similarly, he's saying over here, I don't want to keep any veil. I have a certain doubt, but I'm also scared to ask you. Nevertheless, I will. Any questions on this Doha Chaupai block?
Not a question, but just a thought that even Tulsidas Ji himself was very open about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And here again, it's coming up, and I mean, this is a katha which is going to be eternal. And in that sense, he's putting it down out there for, to show the humility and vulnerability. And I mean, eternally, it's going to be available for all of us to reflect on. And he's put pen to paper for that. So, quite something. And I mean, big rishis. So yeah, not just anyone.
So this Projita Kaitav, the complete giving up of hypocrisy and opening up yourself as you are, is very important. See, in the modern world, what we call civic good life, we are used to hiding things. But in the olden days, there was in Allahabad, in Prayagraj, on the other bank in Jhusi, there was a rais. I mean, he was a zamindar, and then he had a wife, children, and he was a womanizer. So he used to go to every available woman in town, and he was open about it. This is how I was. And then finally he attended some session at Prayagraj, and something transformed, and he became a saint. But everyone knew him as the saint who was a womanizer. There was nothing hidden about him. Similarly, there was a saint who I don't remember exactly the location. I think it was in either Haridwar or Rishikesh. He again was a zamindar, and he was just after making money, a lot of money. And then he used to smoke, I don't know, 10, 20, 50 cigarettes a day. Everyone knew it. And the Swamiji still kept him along, saying, I have no problem, because he has no secrets to hide. And one fine day, he just said, I'm giving it all up. So there was no hypocrisy or no secrets with oneself. See, there are people who put up a show, but then internally they are something very different. That's the way of the modern life that we live in. But in the olden days, people did all kinds of things, and still they became saints. And their only relief was, everyone knows about it, so I have nothing to hide. What's the problem? Which is why they could also not be what we say blackmailed. Hai, sabko pata hai aap kis cheez. So that is that removing of the veil. You just throw out things as they are. No one can touch you then at all. So that was the context in which this was moving. So he goes down to Yes, Ajali.
No. So well, then it also says that the doors are open for everyone to make that transition. It's also, I was trying to remember the phrase you had used, but I couldn't. But each one of us can make that transition.
Total, the highways of divinity are open for everyone. There are no doors there. Absolutely. The only requirement is sincerity of purpose and cleanliness of the mind. So this, Goswamiji has said that so often, so much, again and again and again. It's not the wealth, it's not the knowledge, it's these two qualities. Okay, so he then of course, these are great rishis. So he's just removing that veil because he's being very, polite, honorable, because he's talking to Yajnavalkya. And then he says, now, because the Shrutis and the Puranas have said that you are committing a sin if you have an opportunity to remove your doubts, you don't use that opportunity, thinking that what will the Guru think of me? He will think of me as someone being stupid, etc. Then you are committing a sin. I know this, O Yajnavalkya, and hence I dare to ask you overcoming my fear. What does he ask? Which is Doha Chaupai block number 46. अस बिचारी प्रगटऊ निज मोहु हरहु नाथ करी जन पर छोहु राम नाम कर अमित प्रभावा संत पुराण उपनिषद गावा संतत जपत शंभु अविनाशी, शिव भगवान ज्ञान गुण राशि, आकर चारि जीव जग अहि, काशी मरत परम पद लहि, सोपि राम महिमा मुनिराया, शिव उपदेशु करत करिदाया, राम कवनु प्रभु पूछहु तोहि, कहिय बुझाई कृपा निधि मोहि, एक राम अवधेश कुमारा, तिन्ह कर चरित विदित संसारा, नारी बिरह दुखो लहेउ अपारा, भयउ रोसुरन रावनु मारा, प्रभु सोई राम की अपर को, जाहि जपत त्रिपुरारी, सत्य धाम सर्वज्ञ तुम, कहु विवेकु विचारी. So he's saying, tell me who Ram is. That has been my doubt. Even when I am a student of Valmiki, no other than Valmiki himself. So just see his turmoil when he has to ask this to Yajnavalkya, that he's a student of Valmiki who's written the Valmiki Ramayana, but I have a little doubt as to what the true nature of Ram is. So this is a very important framing that Goswamiji is giving us to prepare us to enter into the territory of the Ramakatha. So let's see what's going on here. Asavichari, thinking thus, that I should not have this veil, I should openly ask my questions, thinking thus, what was told in the earlier Doha. Asavichari prakatau nijamohu. I'm expressing my own doubt. I'm expressing the questions that I have. Harahu natha kari jana parachohu. Please shower your love on me and remove this doubt from my mind, O Lord, O Yajnavalkya. Rama Namakara Amita Prabhava. And now he starts expressing his doubt. Remember, last time we had said that the questions that come your way are like the boats, but you need a kevat to answer them. And this is exactly what's happening here. He's asking, the framing of the question is so beautiful. The framing is coming from someone like Bharadwaj. The one who's going to answer is Yajnavalkya. And what will come out of this, but if not nectar? So, Rama Namakara Amita Prabhava. I have heard and I know for sure myself that the potency of the Ram Nam is intense. Santa, the saints, the Puranas and the Upanishads have sung this glory. So, I think there's this anecdote about a physicist who used to say, okay, if there are any questions, please, it was Paul Dirac. So Dirac, he was an eccentric. So he used to say to his students, please ask me if something is not clear or if you have any questions. So one of the students raised his hands and he said, I did not get what you explained right now. And Dirac just did not reply anything. So the students started, there was a buzz going around in the classroom. And then finally Dirac answered saying, well, that was a statement. What is your question? So similarly, we don't know what the question is. All these statements are being made now, and then pong, the question will come in the end at the Doha. So Rama Namakara Amita Prabhava, Santa Purana Upanisada Santata Japata Sambhu Abhinasi. And Shiva, who himself is Abhinasi, is eternal. He is also reciting Ram, 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 Ram. Shiva is taking the name of Ram. Shiva Bhagavana Jnana Gunarasi. Shiva, who is a storehouse of knowledge and of great qualities, is continuously chanting Ram, 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 Ram. The potency of the name has been sung by the Upanishads, all statements. Akara chari jiva jaga ahahi. There are jivas coming in 4 kinds. Those coming out of the earth, those being born through sweat, those being born through the womb, and those being born in water. So there are 4 kinds of jivas, so many yonis. Akara chari jiva jaga ahahi, kasi marata parama padalahahi. But all of them, it is said, attain mukti if they die in Kashi. Why? Sopi Rama Mahima Muniraya. Because then the Ram Nam is whispered into the ear by none other than Shiva if people die in Kashi. So says the legend. So again, Ram is coming over here. So Sopi Rama Mahima Muniraya, Shiva Upadesu Karata Karidaya. Shiva, जिनकी नगरी काशी है, वहां पे अगर मृत्यु आ गई तो शिव जी की बड़ी करुणा है, अवघड़ दानी है, So because of his compassion, he says, chalo inko mukti de do. But not by just saying that, he whispers the name of Ram into their ear. So yahan pe bhi Ram ji ka mahima hai. So sopi Rama mahima muniraya, siva upadesu karata karidaya, Rama kavana prabhu puchahu tohi. And now comes the question. O Yajnavalkya, please tell me who this Ram is. What is this whole phenomenon of Ram? नाम का महिमा है, कहानी की लीला है, शिवजी जप कर रहे हैं, जिनकी मृत्यु हो रही है उनके कान में राम नाम दिया जा रहा है. ये राम है कौन? Who is he? राम कवन प्रभु पूछहु तो ही, कहिय बुझाई कृपा निधि मोहि. Please tell that hidden secret of Ram, O storehouse of compassion, Yajnavalkya. Ek Ram avadhesa kumara. I know that there is one Ram who is the prince of Awadh, who is the son of Dasharatha. Tinhakara charita vidita sansara. His entire life story is world renowned. It's well known. Nari, and he then summarizes the Ramayana in half a line. Nari biraha dukha lahe para, because his woman was taken away from him. Because of the longing for her, he fell into great sorrow. Bhayau roshu rana Ravanumara. He got angry and killed Ravana. Bas khatam. This is the Ram story that everyone knows of. प्रभु सोई राम की अपर को. अब ये राम की कहानी वाला जो राम है और ये ऊपर वाला जो राम है, राम नाम लोग गा रहे हैं, शिव जी मंत्र दे रहे हैं, काशी में मृत्यु हो गई तो राम नाम से मुक्ति मिल रही है, वेद पुराण उपनिषद उनका महिमा मंडन कर रहे हैं, वो राम जी और ये राम जी, ये दो राम मुझे दिख रहे हैं. प्रभु सोई राम की अपर को जाहि जपत त्रिपुरारी. So the Ram that Shivji is continuously worshipping, is this the same Ram that was born in Ayodhya, whose wife was snatched away from him and who killed Ravana? Satyadhama Sarbhagya Tuma, or in brackets, was he someone else? Satyadhama, you are the storehouse of truth. I know you're not going to lie to me. Sarbhagya, you're all knowing, because Veda Tattva Karagata Sabatore. The Vedas reside on your hand like a gooseberry you can see from all sides. So who else can I ask but you? Satyadhama Sarbhagya Tumha, Kahahu Bibeka Bichari. Even you apply your discretion, think through, and please, O Yajnavalkya, reply saying who this Ram is. Are they two, or is it the same Ram that Shivji is worshipping? So basically, all the doubts that we have about Ram are expressed in this one short Doha Chaupai blog. Prabhu soi Ram ki apar ko chahi japata tripurari. What is this whole Ram Tattva? So that's the question he's posing Yajnavalkya. And then Yajnavalkya goes on into a long answer about that, in which comes the whole story of Shivji and Parvati ji. So now we suddenly see there's a shift of gear. There was Tulsidas ji speaking to us. He was in the preface of the Amuk. All beautiful stories are told. And then suddenly another narration begins with the dialogue of Bharadwaj and Yajnavalkya. So any questions on this?
Not a question, but a comment on how brilliant the layering of these stories is. It's something quite extraordinary. It's like going into, like hyperlink after hyperlink, which leads you into another story. So just that.
Yeah, it's the spiritual World Wide Web. When the internet came, I think the biggest addiction was clicking.
Correct.
So when you used to look up encyclopedias, you had to go to another volume, and then you just got too lazy and just stuck with the subject, which was a huge asset now that we reflect back on it, because we are so distracted by these hyperlinks. So Namita, that's a beautiful way to look at it. All these are spiritual hyperlinks embedded in the text. And just see that tone, the tone and the tenor up to 43 in the preface was so different. Ye manas hai, ye hai, wo hai. Now, just see if he had opened up the text with this doubt, because this doubt was always there at the back of everyone's mind. We were pushing it under the carpet, saying such beautiful poetry is going on. Why ras bhang kyun kare? And then suddenly he throws it up, saying, is this the same? But had we begun with the doubt, we would have gone into a gutter inspector's report, as we saw the other. So he prepared our mind over 43 verses, saying this is how you need to approach it. This is the territorium of space and time that you need to have. And now that you are there, I'm placing this question as a dialogue of Bharadwaj and Yajnavalkya, saying, who is this Ram? Because, see, what is the implied meaning? He's like a normal human being. He suffered the pangs of love because his beloved was taken away, had great sorrow, and then he killed someone. Now, any king would do that. So why is everyone saying Ram, 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 Ram? Are the two Rams same? Are they different? What are they? So, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
No,
Namita.
sorry, no.
Yeah. So now we'll see what exactly is going on in Tulsidas ji's mind by bringing in Kabir over here.
I just want to add one small thing.
Yeah.
To place it in the contemporary context, this almost defines the great debate between the historians and the general populace of faith believers. Because the historians are trying to suggest that, whether Ram existed or not is the big debate. And then the faith believers are not worried about the lineage, time, historicity. They believe in the Ram Naam.
Exactly. So there is that modern divide. You're absolutely right, Namita. But then he's posing a question saying, who is this Ram? So many a times we think that these texts are hagiographies that don't look at it critically. They are not. All the questions that come into our mind are very much asked there. But the way usko itne mithas se pucha jata hai that we don't realize that these are pertinent questions that trouble the modern mind also. Who is this Ram? I mean, he lived like a normal life. His wife was taken away. He killed Ravana. He got her back. Why is everyone saying Ram, 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 Ram? That's the question that Bharadwaj is asking. Is he the same Ram that Shivji is worshipping and giving him as a mantra, or is it some other Ram? So let's just understand what's happening over here. So this is the confluence of Prayagraj where they take a holy dip. I just thought I'll bring in the picture. As you can see, this is the Jamuna and this is the Ganga. So the Ganga is fair in color, the Yamuna in dark, but at Prayagraj, unfortunately, the waters of the Ganga are very polluted and it also doesn't have much depth. But the Yamuna on its course, while it has almost dried out, is met by the mighty Chambal. And the waters at the Sangam of the Yamuna that look relatively cleaner and have a bigger volume is primarily the waters of the Chambal. The Chambal meets the Yamuna, infuses it with new life, and then they move upwards towards the Sangam and Prayagraj. So the Jamuna has almost dried up by the time it comes and crosses through Delhi. It is basically a very dirty, almost semi-dry river. But then new waters are infused into it through its tributaries. And then the Yamuna becomes refreshed and meets the Sangam at Allahabad, or at Prayagraj. So that's the view of the Sangam. And now we'll go on to Kabir. So Kabir ji says, Ek Ram Dasharatha ka beta, Ek Ram ghat ghat mein baitha, Ek Ram ka sakal pasara, Ek Ram tribhuvan se nyara. So he's defining 4 Rams here. One is the historical Ram, Ek Ram Dasharatha ka beta. Ek Ram ghat ghat mein baitha. There is a Ram inside each and every one of us. Ek Ram ka sakal pasara. Ye jo maya hai, ye jo duniya hai, wo Ram ka pasara hai. Or Ek Ram tribhuvan se nyara, which is Brahman. So Kabir is, he has bhala hua meri ghagari phuti, right? He has given it all out. And he's a spiritual revolutionary, whereas Goswami ji is a spiritual evolutionary. He's quasi-static. He says, do what you're doing, just let that internal transformation start. And Kabir ji comes with a shocker saying, stop and reflect. And both these currents are required for us to awaken. It's not that one is exclusive to the other. Both these currents are intertwined that make up the modern Indian mind. So, Rama Niranjana Nyarare, Anjana Sakala Pasarare. So, Anjan is basically Kajal. But over here, Anjan and Niranjan is something that is clear, pristine, Niranjan, and something that is blemished. So, Ram is unblemished. वो न्यारा है. अंजन सकल पसारा रे. ये जो सब दुनिया का पसारा है, it is blemished. भाई राम निरंजन न्यारा रे. अंजन उत्पत्ति ओंकार. That omkara is anjan. Anjana mage sabab istar. And then you think, hey, is this a printing mistake? Omkar was supposed to be that primordial form. But Kabir ji is spinning it saying even that is anjan. Even that is blemished. Anjana mage sabab istar. And everything expanding from it is also anjan. Anjana Brahma Sankara Indra Anjana Gopi Sanga Govindare. So the dance of the gopis and Govindas, Brahma, Shankar, Indra, all these gods and deities, they are also blemished. Anjana Vani, Anjana Bed. The vocalization and the Vedas are blemished. Anjana Kiya Nana Bed. It is our blemished sight that differentiates between a variety of people. Anjana Vidya Patha Puran, the futility of scholasticism, the labor of scholasticism without understanding the essence. Anjana vo ghata ghati gyanare, Anjana pati Anjana dev, Anjana ki kire Anjana sev, Anjana nache Anjana gave, Anjana bhesa anata dikhave re, Anjana kaha kaha laga keta, dana puni tapa tiratha jeta. So all this is blemish. You're doing dan, you're doing punya, but it is all transactional. You're doing it to remove something, and you have not really understood the essence. It is either out of fear of something that is going to happen to you, or a fear of something that you have already done in the past. It is not coming out of love, and hence it is blemished. Kahe kabir koi birala jage. It is only a rare soul that will awaken. Anjana chhadi anatahi dhavere. And he will string on the string, or he'll, what do they do? What is that thing called when you play a string?
You pluck string.
There are a very few who can pluck on that string of Brahman and see that Niranjan. So that's Kabir. So he's basically trying to differentiate between all the transactionalities that we see and that Brahman, which is the ultimate, saying these are different. And he's also saying that there is one Ram who's Dasharath's son, but the Ram that I'm talking of is alag, nyara hai, wo alag hai. That's the conversation that Kabir is having with us and with himself and over generations. Goswami ji is having another conversation. Now, our job is to bring this into harmony, right? So, there is another saying that says, Sab sayane ek mat. If you feel contradictions in someone who is a great realized soul and another one who's a great realized soul, it is basically because you don't understand things the way they are putting it. Sab sayane ek mat. If someone is sayana, they will articulate different things, but they will mean the same thing. And it is from that lens that we will now try and see what Goswami ji is doing. So Goswami ji is bringing this thought through a little question that he's putting, piggybacking on the conversation of Bharadwaj and Yajnavalkya in an Ardhali. Prabhu soi Rama ki apar ko chahi japata tripurari. So in half a question, he's put all our doubts and compacted them. Similarly, in half a line, he's put the whole Ramayana. Nari biraha dukhu lahe apara bhaya urosarana Ramanumara. So are these two Rams the same or are they different? Now let's see what Yajnavalkya is going to answer. Remember that our tradition never answers questions directly. It expects you find your own answers because there is no unique answer. Everyone, based on his or her station, view, perspective, has to find out their own answer. So Yajnavalkya similarly, Krishna does that in the Gita when Arjuna asks him before the Bhakti Yoga. So is it Sagun Bhakti or is it, which form do I really worship? Krishna does not answer it directly. He just says what he thinks is right. And then in the very end, much later in the Gita, he says, Pariprashnena Sevaya. You ask questions and then you decide for yourself what you think is right. So there's no spoon feeding in the spiritual tradition. Questions are asked and answers are given in such a manner that each one can find their own response in it. Okay, so we now move. Any questions on this so far? Okay, then we move to Doha Chaupai block number 47. जैसे मिटे मोर भ्रम भारी कहु सो कथा नाथ विस्तारी जाग बलिक बोले मुसुकाई तुम ही विदित रघुपति प्रभुताई राम भगत तुम मन क्रम बानी चतुराई तुम्हारी मैं जानी चाहु सुनय राम गुण गूढ़ा किन्हीं प्रश्न मन हूं अति मूढ़ा किन्हीं हूं प्रश्न मन हूं अति मूढ़ा तात सुनहु सादर मनु लाई कहूं राम के कथा सुहाई महामोहु महिषे सुबिसाला राम कथा कालिका कराला राम कथा ससी किरण समाना संत चकोर करहि जेहि पाना ऐसे ही संशय की न भवानी महादेव तब कहा बखानी कहूँ सुमति अनुहारी अब उमा शंभु संवाद भयउ समय जेहि हेतु जेहि सुनु मुनि मिटि विषाद. So Yagyavalkya now begins into his answer. But before that, Bharadwaja continues, Jaise mitae more brahma bhari. So, O Yagyavalkya, please give the answer in such a manner that my doubt will be quieted. Jaise or will be vanquished. Jaise mitae more brahma bhari. Kahahu so katha natha bistari. Tell me that story that will vanquish or that will quieten all my doubts and tell it to me bistari. Don't give a short answer. Sutra roop mein mat bataiye, katha roop mein bataiye. Don't give it to me as a sutra. I want an expanse of it. Kahahu so katha natha bistari. Jagabalika bole musukai. Yagyavalkya listened to the question and then he finally realizes that he is now done. The question is over. So he gives a smile. Jagabalika bole musukai. So sometimes when people are interviewing, the question just goes on and on and on, and the person being interviewed doesn't know when the reply is to begin. But over here, there's a termination of that question. Kahahu so katha natha bistari. So he begs him to tell the katha, and then Yajnavalkya smiles and says, Tumha hi vidita Raghupati Prabhuta, you're Valmiki student. You of course know the greatness of Ram, but of Raghupati, of the Ram of the Raghu clan. So he's now bringing in the two Rams together, saying, you know the greatness of which Ram? Of this Ram. Where is that Ardhali? Yeah. Now, remember, he's using very specifically the word Raghupati over here. Tumahi bidita Raghupati Prabhutai. So this Ram is very specifically the Ram of the Raghu clan, Dashratha's son. And he's saying, you know the greatness of him. But you have a doubt saying, but he was suffering from human-like sorrow when his wife was taken away. So it's just a trick that you're doing. So Rama Bhagata Tumha Manakrama Bani, you are a bhakta of Ram through your thoughts, deeds, and words. Chaturayi tumhari main jani. I have understood your smartness or cleverness. Chahahu sunay Rama guna gudha, because you want to understand the mysterious essence of Ram from me, which is why you're posing this question, even though you fully know what the answer to that is, which is to say that all answers reside within ourselves. No one is going to spoon feed answers to us. We have to find them on our own, and they reside within us. Someone just has to act as an aid to open up those answers residing within us. Chahahu sunay Rama guna gudha, kinihu prasna manahu ati mudha, which is why you pose these questions acting as if you are very dumb or you're ignorant. Tata, O son, listen. Sunahu sadara manulai. So remember now again, Bharadwaja and Yajnavalkya, two stalwarts talking. But Bharadwaja is telling Yajnavalkya, think through, apply discretion, and then answer my question. Viveka Vichari. And then Yajnavalkya replies back saying, Tata, O son, listen with sadara manulai. Don't get distracted. Listen with attention and listen with respect. Kahahu Rama ke katha suai. I will tell you the story of Ram that will answer your questions. Mahamohu Mahishe Subisala. Now Mahishasur, the demon Mahishasur, is like all these doubts that come in our mind when we access the Leela of Ram. And the Katha itself will be Kalika Karala. Rama Katha, Kalika Karala. The Katha, the story itself will be like Kali, who will ultimately kill all these self-doubts. So the self-doubts come because we listen to stories of Ram, but they will be killed by listening to the Katha. So he's differentiating between stories that we just hear, doubts that are cast, but the answer to that is the story itself understood properly. So Ram Katha itself will kill all your doubts about the Katha. Ramakatha Sasikirana Samana. So on the one hand, the Katha is like Kali, blood, she's emitting blood, black in form and going ahead to kill Mahishasura. And Ramakatha Sasikirana Samana. But the Katha itself is like the rays of the moon. Santa Chakora Karahi Jehipana. And great saints are thirsting for that Katha like the Chakora birds who feed on the rays of the moon. So Ramakatha Sasikirana Samana Santa Chakora Karahi Jehipana. The saints are literally drinking and wanting more of these moonbeams because that is what they feed on. Aisei Sansaya Kina Bhavani. You're not the first one that is asking such doubts and such questions. A similar question was asked, says Yajnavalkya, by Bhavani, by none other than Parvati to Shivji. So don't worry. So your bhaya is addressed. You don't have to worry because Parvati ji also asked the same question. Your lajja is also addressed because you want to know the good tattva of Ram. It's not that you don't know the story itself. Mahadeva tapa kaha bakhani. And then Mahadev answered Parvati ji, explaining to her what it was. So this was not mansplaining, but this was Shivsplaining to Parvati ji, not of his own making, but because Parvati ji asked him. And then Shivji said, okay, since you asked me, I will now Shivsplain you and we will glide on the story of Shri Ram. So he says, don't worry, a similar doubt was cast by Parvati ji and Shivji then answered her doubt. Exactly the same question that was asked by Parvati ji to Shivji is what you are asking me. Kahaun so mati anuhari aba uma sambhu sambat. So on the one hand, the context is you might be learned, but think before you tell me. The Guru then says, think with attention and respect. And then he sublimes saying, even I might make mistakes. So mere mati ke anusar jo main keh raha hu, take whatever I say with a pinch of salt, O Bharadwaja, because it is limited and is a function of my own understanding of that grand dialogue. So kahau so mati anuhari aba uma sambhu sambat. So O Yajnavalkya, O Bharadwaja, Yajnavalkya says, I will now narrate to you that conversation that happened between Shivji and Parvati ji, in which a similar doubt was cast. Bhayau samaya jehi hetu jehi sunu muni mitihi bishad. I will tell you of the time at which this doubt was asked by Parvati ji. I will tell you the reason why she asked it. And when you listen to this whole story, I would assume that your mind's torment will be quieted. He does not say that your question will be answered. He says your mind's torment will be quietened. The question will dissolve away. This is also very interesting. The tradition does not provide you with answers. It just quietens your mind. He's Yajnavalkya. If he says something, he has to keep his commitment. He's saying, I will quieten your mind. He's not saying, I'll answer your question. Okay, so this is where we come to the end of Doha Chaupai block number 47. Any questions?
So I don't know if you know how you made the distinction, you meaning Yajnavalkya, in terms of the story and the katha, but so I'm just thinking anyone who I'm even mentioning to that I'm studying the Rāmacaritamānasa, it's like, they may not say it, but the look on the face is like, what's the big deal about the story? Don't we all know the story? What is there to study in that sense? And the distinction here therefore just stood out because just 2 days ago I mentioned this to someone, and there's just so much there. So I went back to the December little piece which you said about Ram and Sita's wedding, which has all of us here today.
So there are many ways to look at it, Sajali. I'll try to answer the question, Mati Anuhar. So
I don't know if there was a question, but yeah, happy to go here.
Okay. I don't want to be Dirac. I'll still answer the non-questions. Okay. So the thing is, the story is a factoid. It is facts. You can pull it any way you want. The katha is with bhav, ras, and adar. So you pour your heart into those factoids and you start creating a process that transforms you. You don't want to transform Ram, or you don't want to transform Sita. You want to use them to transform yourself. That is the katha. The story is ऐसे यहाँ तब ये हुआ. अब उसका जो करना है वो करो. So you take चावल, you take दाल, उसको भूनो और उसको ऐसे ही चबाओ. क्या स्वाद आएगा? लेकिन इसमें थोड़ा अदरक डालो, थोड़ा वेजिटेबल्स डालो, उसको अच्छा पकाओ, उसमें थोड़ा मसाला डालो, घी डालो, दही ले लो, खिचड़ी खाओ. क्या स्वाद आएगा? So the factoids are the raw materials. The katha is the pakwan. Now what you make of it is entirely your call. So basically what differentiates facts from the story is the rasa and the bhava that you get it. And the manas is all about transforming yourself. It is not about questioning the katha, even though it questions the katha. Bharadwaj is very much questioning, saying, is that Ram and this Ram the same? But what is Yajnavalkya's answer? Bhayahu samaya jehi hetu jehi sunu muni mitahi bisad. Your mind will be quietened, your doubts will go away. He is not bringing a scholastic blade saying, I will answer all your doubts in yes or no. It's not a black and white world. It is about dissolving the doubts and transforming your mind and using the katha as a process for self-transformation. And many a times we mistake or just forget this aspect and get into the deadwood of aisa kyun, vaisa kyun, kithar, kahan, kya. But this is not to say that he's deflecting the question. He will address that because Parvati ji in the form of Sati also has a similar question. So I think we have time for another Doha Chaupai block. We'll quickly take that and then stop for the day. So Doha Chaupai block number 48. एक बार त्रेता जुग माही शंभु गए कुंभज ऋषि पाही संग सती जग जननी भवानी पूजे ऋषि अखिलेश्वर जानी राम कथा मुनि बरज बखानी सुनी महेश परम सुख मानी ऋषि पूछी हरि भगति सुहाई कही शंभु अधिकारी पाई कहत सुनत रघुपति गुण गाथा कछु दिन तहा रहे गिरिनाथा मुनि सन विदा मागी त्रिपुरारी चले भवन संग दक्ष कुमारी तेहि अवसर भंजन मही भारा हरि रघुवंश लीन अवतारा पिता बचन तजि राजु उदासी दंडक बन विचरत अविनाशी हृदय विचारत जात हर केहि विधि दर्शनु होई गुप्त रूप अवतरे प्रभु गए जान सब कोई शंकर उर अति क्षोभु सती न जा sorry this is a sortha शंकर उर अति क्षोभु सती न जानहि मरमु सोई तुलसी दर्शन लोभु मन डरु लोचन लालची. So after a very long time a sortha has come, a bell saying now a new section is beginning. So it's a metrical change to warn us or to awaken our mind saying, folks, the amukh is over and now we are entering the katha of Shivji and Parvati. Okay. So Ekabar Treta Jugamahi. Time and space have started collapsing now. So once upon a time, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 1000 years ago, 5000 years ago, no, in a different yuga, in Treta Yuga. So what are the four yugas? We have seen that. There is Satya, there is Treta, there is Dwapar, and there is the current, the Kali. And every other yuga is having one unit less. We've seen that. I'll not get into the details, but the numbering is only for the Treta, the three-legged yuga, and the two-legged Dwapar yuga. Kali is one-legged, Satya is four-legged. So Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali. So once upon a time in Treta yuga. So how many years ago was that? 5,000 years is but a flash in a frying pan of time. This is, eons ago. So ek bar Treta yuga mahi Shambhu gaye kumbhaja rishi pahi. Shambhu, Shiva, went to Agastya. Wait, but Agastya Rishi is a Kali Yuga Rishi. How did he go in Treta Yuga? What's going on? Right? So Goswami ji is saying that stories just repeat over time. History repeats itself in a transcendental manner also. So whatever time is irrelevant, it could be 5 seconds ago, or it could be 5 million years ago. Whenever there were humans roaming around, at that point in time, there was a rishi. For want of a better name, he was called Agastya or Kumbhaja, and Shiva was also there in Treta Yuga. Okay, but then someone might say, but the world was destroyed, there were dinosaurs, and then humans came much later. And then the rishi would typically answer, I mean, the question would not be dinosaurs, but what was there before that? There was nothing. But then the cyclicity of time is brought in. That before that, Kali Yuga was there. And in that Kali Yuga, someone was telling a story. And in that story, there was a reference to the earlier Treta Yuga. So the whole cyclicity of time is brought in here, saying once upon a time in Treta Yuga, when we don't know what exactly was there, there was nevertheless Shambhu, Shiva, and he went to Agastya Rishi. So while he's warping up the idea of space and time, he's also reduplicating the dialogue of Yajnavalkya and Bharadwaj, because Shivji is now coming in the form of Yajnavalkya, and Agastya is the receptor in the form of Bharadwaj. Agastya is a Kumbhaj, he's a Ghada, he receives everything. And of course, he was born out of a pot. That story also we have seen. So Sambhukaye Kumbhaja Rishi Pahi, Sangasati Jagajanani Bhavani, which Shivji was of course his better half or second half or half, Sati, his wife in that yoga, Sati, Jagajanani, who was the giver of birth to the whole world, none other than Bhavani herself, in the form of Sati. Puje Rishi Akhileswara Jani, and Shivji is doing puja to Agastya. So शिवजी जा रहे हैं और अगस्त्य ऋषि की त्रेता युग में पूजा कर रहे हैं. मतलब त्रेता युग के जो अगस्त्य है, he was so powerful that even Shivji, out of respect, bowed down to him, offered puja to him. Sorry, I'm confusing things. The Rishi offered puja to Shivji. Agastya Rishi ने शिवजी की पूजा की. Sorry. It was a wrong interpretation by me. पूजे ऋषि अखिलेश्वर जानी, ऋषि ने शिवजी को अखिलेश्वर जान के उनकी पूजा की. I stand corrected. Rāmacaritamānasa मुनि बर्ज बखानी. And now Agastya recites the Ram Katha to Shivji. Rāmacaritamānasa मुनि बर्ज बखानी, सुनी महेश परम सुखुमानी. So Agastya Rishi is telling the Ram Katha to Shivji. Again, confusion. So this is the extremely by design confusing verse to trigger us to think. But hello, when we began with the whole description of the Katha, we said that the Katha originated in Shivji's heart, right? He told it, he kept it in his heart for a very long time, which is why I call it the Manas. And then from that flows the river, etc. We had seen that whole trajectory of the rivers. If Shivji is the originator of this story, why and which story is Agastya telling Shivji? And the resolution is given in the great commentaries saying Hari Ananta, Hari Katha Ananta. The story is infinite, and Shivji is always welcoming to listen to any story about Ram being told by anybody else, not because he does not know the story, simply because he is eager to listen. Remember that Hanuman is, depending on which story you're reading, is an avatar, a son, or a form of Shiva himself, always present when the Katha is told. Similarly, Shivji is very eager to listen to Agastya's version of the Ram Katha. So, Rāmacaritamānasa Muni Barja Bakhani, Suni Mahesa Parama Sukhumani. And Shivji and Bhavani, Sati, were having a gala time. They were having a good time regaling in the stories told by Agastya. And then after the story was told, Rishi Puchi Hari Bhagati Suhai. He told the story, but then asked Shivji, आप जैसी भक्ति हम में नहीं है, आप उसमें भक्ति की जान भर दो. I have the story, but you have the katha. I want the bhakti from you. And then kahi sambhu adhikari pai. And then Shivji understood that here is a great saint, here is a great rishi who has now prepared his mind to get into the waters of the katha. I will infuse his story with the love of God. And then Shivji then tells Agastya about love of God. Agastya has told him the story. Shivji now infuses it with love and tells the katha. So Sajali, the comment you made earlier is already preempted and answered in a way in this Chaupai. So Shivji infuses the Katha with love, and then Agastya receives his own story, but now infused back with love. Not to say that Agastya's story is not having love, but he wants to have the nichod, the essence of it from Shivji. And Shivji realizes that he is adhikari hai. He's someone who's capable of understanding what I'm going to say. And so he regales Agastya with stories. When is this happening? It is happening in Treta Yoga. Okay? Kahata sunata raghupati gunagatha. And both of them are regaling in these stories. Kachudina taha rahe girinatha. And the Lord of the mountains, Girinath, Shivji, stayed in Agastya's ashram for a few days, regaling in these stories. Munisana bida magi tripurari, and then he took leave. Chale bhavana sanga daksha kumari, and with the daughter of Daksha Prajapati, which is Sati, he went back to his abode in Kailasa. Tehi avasara bhanjana mahibhara. At that very time, to destroy the load of the earth. Bhanjana mahibhara, Hari Raghubansa Leena avatara. Hari took birth in the Raghu clan. At that very moment, when Shivji, after regaling the stories of Ram with Kumbhaj, Agastya, was moving back, while he was moving back, at that very time, Ram was born. Huh? How did this happen? Because earlier they were telling the stories of Ram. Which Ram is this? So again, a confusion after confusion. Every Ardhali is your mind is confounded with it. So Hari Raghubansa Leena avatara, Pita Pachana Taji Raju Udasi, Dandaka Bana Bicharata Abhinasi. And now Kachudina. These Kachudina are Shivji's Kachudina. These are not our mortal days of sunrise and sunset in 24 hours. One day of Shivji is many, many years. We don't know. It's just a relative unit. Din. Wo Shivji ka din hai. It's not 24 hours. So while he's going back to Kailasa with Sati, the whole birth of Ram has happened. He has grown into youth. He has got married. Pita Bachana Taji Raju Udasi. Because of his father's words, he has left his kingdom and he has started moving around. Dandaka Bana Bicharata Abhinasi. He is now moving in the Dandaka Bana. So ये राम जी का जो अवतार है वो तब का अवतार है जब शिवजी वापस जा रहे हैं. ये कब का अवतार है? ये त्रेता युग में है. अब त्रेता युग में ही जब वो अगस्त्य ऋषि जी से मिले थे तब वो भी राम कथा कह रहे हैं. वो उसके पहले की राम कथा है. So he's bringing in the concept of the Ram Katha being told every time there is human form anywhere in the world, anywhere in the universe, anywhere in the multiverse, which is why the Katha will have so many different variants. Because as the passage of time flows, which is also relative and a construct of the mind, the Katha itself comes to us in multifarious forms. It is multidimensional. So Ram Katha was being told by Agastya to Shivji in Treta Yoga. That Katha was complete, but that was from another eon. That Katha was listened to. Shivji was going back to the Kailasa mountain, and at that very time, the Ram in Treta Yoga was being born in the clan of Dasharatha. So here Goswami Ji says that to peg Ram at a certain time in historicity is but a peck of sand on the vast ocean or the vast sandy banks of the Ram Katha in the ocean of Ram himself. So when you say that you have a particular Ram in mind, it is that peck of sand. There are so many Rams that have happened before and that will happen afterwards. Tehi avasara, bhanjana mahibhara, hari raghubansa leena avatara, pita bachana taji. But the story is the same. The pattern is repeating. But the casting of the pattern happens again and again and again. And why is he taking birth? Bhanjana mahibhara, to destroy the load of the earth, to kill the demons. Hridaya bicharata jata hara kehi vidhi darasana hoi. And then while Shivji is going back to Kailasa flying out, he then says, well, if he's being born now, I just want to say hello. I want to have his darshan. I want to bow down to him. Gupta rupa avatareu prabhu gaye jana sabu koi. But he has taken this form in Gupta Roop, secretly. If I bow down to him, I am Shivji. People know me as Shivji. Everyone will get to know that I am bowing down to him means he is divinity. I want to hide the fact that he is divinity because he is born as a human being, because that's the only way to kill Ravana. No animals, no gods can kill him. So he has to be born as a human being with all the trappings of being a human, which is to say with the fact that he will go through sorrow, pain, loss. And in a way, the question posed is indirectly answered over there as to why Ram behaves the way he does. He's born as he has to act like a human. And hence, I have to keep this secret. But I'm dying for his darshan. How will I manage that darshan? He's thinking to himself. And we stop at that cliffhanger as to now how is he going to resolve this darshan. So Shivji is a Ram Bhakt. He's taking Ram Naam. The moment he realizes कि यहाँ पे अवतार हो रहा है, he immediately wants to go there and take darshan. But he says, if I go there, the secret will be broken. What do I do? And on that cliffhanger, we stop for the day. So a very compact verse. You can just see the way Goswamiji shifts gears. In one block, he has told that there are many Ram Kathas. They keep happening again and again and again. There are differences between them. He's telling us that this Ram is now, another Ram is being born when Shivji is going back after listening to the whole Katha. And he's born as a human being. So he has to go through all the ripus and all the turmoils of a human being. God has become man. Man can become God again. So the promise that each one of us is infused with the power to become divine is because if God can be man, man can be God again. So on that note, we stop for the day. We have 3 minutes of time. If there are any quick questions or remarks, we can take them. No? Okay.
Nothing other than just marveling at the imagination, like beyond belief.
Yeah, and see the compactness, it's just 8 lines and there are so many things he's brought in over here. To a simple question saying, is this Ram and that Ram the same? And then every statement is a confusion and has a resolution, a confusion and a resolution. And then a cliffhanger saying Shivji is now wondering, how will I take darshan? And he's going with Sati Bhavani and Bhavani is wondering, ye kya chal raha hai? I mean, my husband is omnipotent, omnipowerful. He's singing the glories of some Ram who was in distress when his wife was taken away. Now he's suddenly going into a tizzy because some other Ram is being born. And Parvati, Sati, she has exactly the same question as Bharadwaja has asked Yajnavalkya. So with that, we stop for the day.
Lovely.
Anything else? Yeah. Okay.
So just very quickly, sorry, Namita spoke about hyperlinks, and I've been thinking about that. It's almost as if every hyperlink is my own question and doubt and clarification, and Tulsidas ji has all the time in the world to weave, because that preparedness, and the shedding of all those layers inside of me takes that much, me or anyone takes that much time. So it's an incredible preparation.
Yeah, and every time one reads it, one is in awe. How did he manage this? And the thought that he has put behind it, he poses that question, he finds his own resolution. Others have found other resolutions, but then sab sayane ek mat, then we bring all those streams together. So the resolution is yet to happen. We are just left with this cliffhanger now, and we'll see what will happen and how this is resolved next week. All right. Yatra yatra Raghunath Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Krutamastakāñjalim Vāshpavari Paripurnalochanam Marutim Namatarakshasantakam.